Well, welcome to another lesson of the Focus on Amplience course. I am Marcelo Lewin, the Headless Creator, and as always, there's my name and email address. Feel free to send me an email with any questions, comments, ideas, anything you have. Just send me an email. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Today, I have a special guest presenter. His name is Michael Badamo. He's a customer success manager at Amplience, and he's gonna talk to us and show us 5 best practices in Amplience to scale content for omni-channel delivery. So there's a variety of things you're going to be learning today. We're going to get into that real soon. But as always, before we get started, you know how this goes. Go to headlesscreator.com and sign up, get your account. And with that, you will have access to not only this lesson, which will be available on demand right after we're done, but you'll also have access to the full course, Focus on Amplience, which has a bunch of content already in it. And you're also going to have access to all the other courses, including Content Modeling Weekly, a bunch of other Focus on courses, and the Discover Headless Tech. So go ahead and get your free account. I really would appreciate it. I always end this by saying I'm trying to reach 1,000 users by the end of the year, but I am very proud to say that yesterday I reached 1,000 users. So I'm way ahead of schedule. I think today I'm up to 1,010 users already. So I don't know what my next goal is going to be by the end of the year, but I think maybe I'll make it 1,200 users. So help me out. Go get your free account. I really do appreciate it. You know how this works. I'm going to go ahead and restart the intro because the on-demand version has absolutely no marketing at all. And so I will see you in just 15 or maybe 10 seconds. I don't know. Something quick. See you. Well, hello, and welcome to another lesson of the Focus on Amplience course. I am Marcelo Lewin, the Headless Creator. As always, get a hold of me right there, Marcelo at headlesscreator.com. Thank you for joining me today. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 best practices in Amplience to scale your content for omni-channel delivery. Now, when I say we, I really mean Michael Badamo, which he's a customer success manager at Amplience. And I won't tell you any more about him, because I'm just going to let him speak for himself. Michael.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm well.
Glad to have you here.
Yeah, I'm excited to do it.
So where are you located?
I'm in Manhattan, Kansas, a couple hours west of
Kansas.
Yep.
Okay, very cool. People know I'm in Southern California here, so you're a couple hours ahead of me, right?
Yep.
So tell me, how did you get into the headless CMS space? How did you jump into that? And what did you do before?
Yeah, so before I was in the e-commerce space on the merchant side for about 11 years, most recently a senior manager of e-commerce. And I really loved it, but I saw this movement about headless and composable commerce, and I thought I've got to get in there in a really deep way. And I listened to a podcast with our CEO talking about going headless, and I reached out, and as I say, the rest is history. So now I'm a CSM for some really great accounts, helping them go headless and helping to manage your content.
Pretty cool. So prior to that, you were into e-commerce. Have you always been in technology?
There were a few years there where I wasn't, but primarily, yeah, I've always been kind of a tech guy, right? I'm the person that somebody calls when their router doesn't work or they want help setting up their new phone. And as I got into e-commerce, it was just really awesome seeing, you would create something and then within minutes, right, it's live and impacting
Right.
the world, hopefully in a positive way, right?
Right.
So it's a really, really awesome space to be in.
Definitely. Well, everybody knows I like to close out my interviews with some sort of personal question. I usually ask about movies because everybody knows I'm a huge movie buff. I'll ask you that, but also I'll ask you 2 questions. I'll break the normal thing here that I do is, what's your favorite movie? So that's going to be one. And then the other one is, what's the weirdest job you ever had? If you ever had a weird job.
Favorite movie is probably The Godfather, for the Godfather series.
The first one.
Yeah. Yep. And the weirdest job, can't say that I've ever really had a weird job. Okay. I worked as a pool cleaner for a while. The pool was barely.
That's not weird, but that's cool.
It's kind of an easy job.
Yeah. Definitely,
Yeah,
totally. We had a pool, and I was the guy that had to clean it, but I didn't work for it. I just had to do it because my parents
yeah,
made me do it.
yep.
So, all right, sounds good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show your screen now. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask, put them on chat. Mike, if I have questions, I'll jump in. But otherwise, I'm going to go on mute and let's get started with best practice number one.
Cool. So what you're looking at is a picture of Sprague Lake in Rocky Mountain National Park. It's one of my all-time favorite places to visit. So we're going to use this image as a place to start here. And in Amplience, we have a product called Dynamic Media, and it's essentially a media delivery service where every asset is an API endpoint, essentially, right? And you can take those images and serve them across your site, wherever they need to go. And the great thing about the service is that by using parameters, you can take basically a raw image, if you will, and make it smaller. You can flip it around. You can make it black and white. You can change the size, the format, all sorts of controls through URL parameters instead of having to go back to, let's say your designer to kind of recreate a different version, right? And what I'm going to show you in this first section, right, is how to apply those parameters. As a CSM, we do a lot of audits and diagnostics for our accounts. And one of the things we commonly see is an underuse of parameters, or perhaps not the best use of parameters. And I'm going to focus on a few today. One is sizing, right, to control the width of the image. The other is format. So we're going to change it from a JPEG to a WebP. And then finally, we're going to look at quality, which is essentially the compression percentage. So if we take a look at this image here, to start, it is 4,000 by 2,200 pixels, and it's a meg and a quarter. So it's not exactly small, right? You wouldn't want to serve this on a website if you had the choice. So if we envision maybe like a blog post, we can actually go up here and add width equals 500, and just instantly it drops to 500 pixels wide, right? And that's great. So if we were worried about file size, we've gone from over a meg down to what, 31K, which is phenomenal. But we can get even better, right? So if we go in and add format equals WebP, right now we're going to change this from a JPEG to a WebP format, and now it's getting even smaller, right? It's less of a shift, but again, you're getting smaller, right? So now you're under 27K. And we could also come in here and adjust the quality, and maybe we do 70, right? And again, getting smaller still. So very quickly, you can see that we've gone from, over a meg in file size, really large, down to just, a couple dozen K, right? And the advantage of that is I didn't have to go back to any designer. I didn't have to jump into Photoshop. I just added some URL parameters. So pretty powerful opportunity here to optimize your site. And this can be done for content and product imagery, right? Whether it's on the listing page or a product page. But it's not just sort of the guts of it, right? You can also do creative things. So we could actually come in and say, you know what, I want this to be black and white, right? And so now we can change it to be black and white. And maybe it looks a little dull, right? Okay, so now we could come in and adjust the gamma a little bit, right? So maybe it's 0.75. And if we do that, right, it gets a little moodier. And you can see, again, just how easy it is to drop some parameters in there and go from a source file down to something that's really manageable, that's tailored to that end result. But it's not the most user friendly in that sense, right? If you have thousands of images on your site, you don't want to be going in and adding these parameters to each and every image. And so the second thing to do here is use transformation templates. And really what transformation templates do is they bundle those parameters into a set, right? And those transformation templates
Real
are
quick before we
sure.
jump into the second part, I
Yeah.
think an important concept to understand here, besides the fact that you're not involving a designer, you get to make these decisions without having the designer, is single source of truth, right? Because you're working from one file. So that
Correct.
means that your parameters that you applied to this file, if you decide to update this image for whatever reason, let's say you had headline in the image, like burned in text, and you need to update the text, all those versions with the moodiness, with the 500 pixel, all those versions will still work without having to redo every single version, right? So single source of truth is like an
Correct.
important concept. So there's that's another benefit that I think would be
Right.
really important.
Correct. So in Amplience, we always push COPE, right? Create once, publish everywhere.